Hi, I'm here today. I have a very special guest with me, Helene Couvrette. Helene is the owner of Home Yoga Studio here in Hudson. She's also the co-founder of MISTY, which is the Montreal International Symposium of Therapeutic Yoga. And that takes place every 18 months, I believe.
Yeah, it's been every year, but I'm thinking of shifting it to every 18 months. Like everything
Okay.
else, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. So I have Helene today. The other thing about Helene that's very, very special is she is actually my yoga teacher. So I did my teacher training with Helene. I finished 4 years ago, so it's been a few years. It's gone by really fast, but she's a very special person in my life. So I'm really happy to be here with her. So I wanted to start, Helene. How did you get into yoga and in particular yoga therapy?
Yeah, well, the first question is, I've been thinking about that. I've been asked that before. I think things just sort of happened, serendipity kind of happened with yoga. I used to live up in the Laurentians near the Sivananda Center, and I knew people who went. I always thought it'd be kind of fun, but I was a single mom, and it just didn't feel, I don't know. And then when I moved here, there was yoga in Hudson, and my yoga teacher Maureen, who actually teaches out of my center amongst other places, still teaching, was my first teacher. I think I was destined to have Maureen as my first teacher, and then just a year or so in, I just fell in love right away. And then a year or so in, maybe a couple years, Maureen said, there's a teacher training at the time. This was 18, 17, 16 years ago. Certification wasn't such a big thing, and she thought, even though she'd been teaching for almost 10 years, she'd go get certified. Why didn't I join her? So she saw that potential in me, and it was a perfect timing for that to happen. As for yoga therapy, when I started my training, as Debbie knows because she has to as well, we have to do some practice teaching. And even without that, I was so in love with the way yoga felt. And I confess a lack of almost self-motivation to do it. I thought, I'm going to find friends that I could show them some yoga, which will help me do more than the classes I was already doing twice a week. And I started actually with some friends, and there was a woman I knew who had cancer, and I was looking for a space, and she says, we can use my basement. And so that actually was the origin of my teaching.
Okay.
Was in basement with some friends, one of whom was hosting it in her basement, and she subsequently has died. And I think over the years, that many years ago, I was a little younger, and
How many years ago is this?
Well, yeah,
We have to go back.
we have to go back. All numbers kind of get scrambled in my brain, but it's been that was about 15, 16 years ago that I started teaching in people's homes as I was starting my training, and the year took the training. And what I saw as I started teaching, even though I was enthused and, younger body wanting to do a bit more challenging postures occasionally, I saw not everybody could. And I saw and heard how people so felt better after yoga. And what I heard from that wasn't that they felt, physically stronger and fitter. And yes, they felt more flexible. And some said, their blood pressure had lowered and they felt good in their body. But really what resonated was they felt better. They, I used to actually call myself Feel Good Yoga before I opened my center, which is 10 years ago, July 1st.
Wow.
So it just sort of developed as, that moved me, that I can help people feel better on that deeper level, whatever it was that, yeah. So then I started to be more and more interested, instead of just learning and continuing my education, which I did some of, fun yoga classes and getting hips and stuff. What I started to be interested in is, what do I do to help people who are suffering, who are having problems with, their backs, how much more I can be able to help them, was to educate myself more.
Now, yoga therapy, because you're, what does it treat exactly? Like, what kinds of conditions would you go see a yoga therapist for?
Yeah, well, you would see yoga therapists for a lot of things. It could be physical pain, shoulder pain, back pain, knee pain, hip pain, neck pain, and it could be a follow-up alongside physical therapy, post-surgery, or even trying to see if you can not maybe ward off surgery a bit. What else you can do before, because people are not in such a rush to have surgery, which is a good thing sometimes. It's necessary though. So it's for all that. And then other times there's emotions, which I don't see as separate. I see that there are people who have a lot of anxiety and depression. It's a huge thing, stress. So I think that's another aspect of what yoga therapy can do, or can be applied to help people with.
Okay.
And I don't see them as separate, as I say.
Do you when you say you don't see them as separate, do you think that a lot of physical pain is caused by stress and anxiety and
yeah, I'll take away what I think, and I also take away the word cause.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that more that science knows, as opposed to I think science knows that there's definitely a connection. The way we feel emotionally, our body internalizes that. So I think there's absolutely, I would say, a connection between what's going on emotionally and our ability to overcome pain, to move out of pain, and emotionally. Sometimes physical pain will bring on depression, and sometimes depression will bring on physical pain. That's why I don't see them as separate, because it's a system. This body's a system. We have emotions, we have body, we have thought, we have breath, we have our nervous system, and everything works together. I often say as an ecosystem. So you can't sort of change, you can't take a fish tank and remove, a chunk of fish, not affecting the way the rest of the fish end up moving along the water. It just changes everything. So I would say it like that more.
Okay, so it's a very holistic therapy. It takes into consideration all aspects of a person.
Yeah, and I know that yoga therapy is sort of still newish here, which is why I do my conference. But, it's defined more as a way to empower people to find in them the resources that are there, that are waiting for them, to be able to assist in the healing process. So again, sometimes it is necessary emotionally and physically to seek professional help, to have some medications or some surgeries or other applications to help them. But to assist that, if yoga therapy is there to say, okay, well, what you can do is in your thoughts, in your movement, in your breath, so that it optimizes the other healing modalities, because if all that affects each other. So it's a way to empower people to find their inner tools that already exist. As opposed to ought to do something to them, it's to help them rediscover what tools they might be able to be, to be using, and yoga therapy applies those tools.
Okay. Yeah. So it's basically taking what a person already has and bringing that out to heal themselves.
Yeah, bringing it to the surface and helping them as, somebody who's had the education. Yoga therapist. I'm now a certified yoga therapist with International Association of Yoga Therapists, E-RYT500. And they just started some standards a year ago, and I was grandparented in. I'm a grandma in there, and it basically is at 1,000 hours training. So you've done a 200-hour teacher training with me, and you can go on to do 300s. But 1,000 hours of education and more advanced, so you learn more about the nervous system, about pain, about the mechanics and biomechanics and the physical body, the emotional body.
Yeah, it's a much more recognized form of therapy now.
It is becoming much more. I mean, I started yoga 17, 18 years ago, started teaching 15, 16 years ago. It has absolutely changed. Yeah. Even starting the center 10 years ago and the symposium 6 years ago, there's being, talking to people all over from Europe to the States who are in yoga therapeutics and medical clinics, which is what it's about. Yeah. There's a big shift in recognizing and science doing so many studies and confirming that yoga does definitely have a place and a beneficial one to helping the healing process.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I know it works with me too. And so what have you experienced either with yourself or with a client perhaps of healing through yoga therapy? Is there a particular story that maybe you could share?
Yeah, it's hard because if that person's watching, I want to keep their anonymity. So I'll just make a general statement that what I often see is people might come in for a physical problem. And of course, because a yoga therapist is unlike a doctor or even physical therapist realm of practice, I don't have so much a limitation and just sort of getting the factuals about the body. I'm going to inquire, not at the same time being a psychotherapist, but there's there's a dancing line of the relationship, so that things can surface, and we can look into how those emotions affect the body.
Yeah.
And I think one of the stories that sticks with me, I'll be more general about it, is just that the problem was a real big physical problem for many, many years. But by the end of a few months, the changes were physical. The comfort in the body was much more physical, but that person also changed their status, in their romantic life, and did other changes. It's sort of like people ask if yoga can make you lose weight.
Yes, a lot.
Or help you lose weight. And it's not that yoga postures will burn off fat, but there's something that transpires in a person because they have time to be more aware of where they're at emotionally in their life choices. So I think what's really exciting is when I see people come in with a physical problem, and I can sense that there's some emotional stuff going on, like everybody in their life, and that shifts, and then the physical shifts, and it starts to snowball, and everything shifts, so in one particular case, the healing was just transformative. It was in all those aspects, and the physical was gone, and the emotional life was changed. Yeah.
And is that where you get your satisfaction from what you do?
Yes. Only because you see that.
I do. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, to empower a person in their healing process is to empower them in their life. If they can feel better physically, emotionally, and deeper in a spiritual way, and their life begins to change, that's on a good road. It may disturb things around them a little bit when people change.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to change, and there's the word courage. Have the courage.
To have the courage.
Yeah, and that's another thing that can happen. I actually also know somebody who started a business because yoga gave that person the courage, which they felt very insecure about doing something. So they had a career change and opened.
Wow.
Again, I'll keep it anonymous, but a very, reliable and useful community business on a regular basis. That was really great. I didn't even know about it. She came in and said, "I've been busy. I've been opening this business, and it's all due to yoga and how your classes made me feel empowered." And she didn't even see me on privates. It was really amazing.
Oh, it is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and then you went on, and then you co-founded Misty, which I've attended a few times. I loved it. I love that there's presenters from all different disciplines, especially in the healthcare area. And so, it's the Montreal International Symposium of Therapeutic Yoga. You put it on now every 18 months. So the next time it will be next October.
Not the one coming. I just did it in March. So I'm going to go a year and a half.
2018.
It had been every year, and then I did a year and a half, and then a year. And I'm thinking, there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, no, it's good. But what inspired you to take that on? Because that's a huge event that you put on, and you have a lot of presenters that come from all over the place.
Yeah, from all over. We had Israel and Amsterdam and Australia presenters this year, and of course all over the States and Canada.
That's fantastic.
Again, it was serendipity. I was at a time in my life where I met someone who had been doing medical conferences and didn't know much about yoga other than what the regular media shows of all this posturing, and was interested in what kind of yoga, or I was sharing it, and the person said, "Listen, I did medical conferences, why don't we do a conference?" Could have called it medical yoga therapy. And so we did, with my resources and his experience, we created this conference. I'm now doing it alone, but there was 4 years with this partner and moved on to do other things. So now I'm doing it pretty much alone, and it is an amazing thing. The presenters all have medical backgrounds, be it physical or mental health practitioners, from physical therapists to psychologists to researchers, doctors, physicians, and they use yoga in their clinical practice. And so it's really this is what's coming up with yoga. We're trying to. My mission is to integrate yoga in the medical system of Canada, because that's where I live right now. It is being integrated more and more, from veterans to and kids with autism and special needs to trauma, and of course all the physical problems as well.
Absolutely. All right, we're back. Sorry, we just had a little cutout there. So I just wanted Helene to explain to us where we could find her, Helene.
Yeah. So to close up, basically, you can find me, as I was starting to say, H is for the word Helene. I'm now using it for the word health, healing, and happiness. That's what I'd like to be associated with.
Yes.
And -OM, so OM. But even if you just Google HOM, no E, so it's just home. And so my website is Home Yoga Center.
Okay.
And the Misty website is homeyogaevents.com, both of them .com. And so the best thing is to go on there. You'll see my phone number and my info, and the emails are on there. So
Awesome. Thanks so much, Helene.